Hey guys, Jim Bounds with Motorhome Rehab Ranch, and we're going to talk today about parts. Parts are important. Parts are what keeps us on the road. One of the big things that GMC has over any other vehicle, one, it was completely built. All the parts were in the GM program. Okay. Number two, many of the parts were off shelf from other vehicles in their program. And then number three, there were almost 13,000. There were almost 13,000 made. So there's enough market. There has been enough market for the OEM manufacturer to continue to make parts. And you say, well, when do they stop making parts? When the sales of the part, now, this is called the accepted line of distribution. Now, I was once in it as a buyer. There is no such thing as a buyer anymore. The internet has completely taken it over. But the manufacturer will come up. These are called OEM, original equipment manufacturer, OEM. The manufacturer will design a part, say this fuel pump. And they'll put the vehicle in production and they'll start building the parts for that production. Thank you. So they'll start building those parts for that production. And they'll get a rate of sale. They'll get X amount per month or whatever. And they'll continue making those parts because a part is a profit center. Okay? They'll continue to keep making the part until the sales, the number of sales of that part diminishes to the point that their bean counters determine. You wonder what bean counters do? What bean counters, pencil pushers. Well, this is the kind of stuff they figure out. How long do they keep making a part until it's not viable for them to do anymore? Now, with that information, though, a lot of aftermarket people will look at the part and say, well, there's still enough of these needed that if it dropped off completely, there would be a market there. Can we produce that part in a small quantity and fill that market? That's what that's about. That's what aftermarket folks do. Okay. After the manufacturer, the OEM, new old stock inventory. This is when the bean counters say, well, okay, how much have we got made? We've kept pumping those needs out. How many do we have now? And how long is this inventory good for? That's called new old stock. And they run new old stock to the inventory end. Now, new old stock could be kept by the manufacturer, or it could be sold to an aftermarket people, or if they don't have inventory, that much inventory, they'll sell that off. And then the aftermarket folks will say, well, we could do 50 a month. So they'll produce it. Okay. Now, when you say produce it, maybe a cross-reference, or maybe a part really, really close to that part that they can cross-reference it to, and then they can add those sales to that part. They're going to group that part. So they'll have more total sales of that one part because they're going to use it for two applications. Okay. So another way to do it is to supersede. GM may have contracted Delco to make a part. Well, it gets to the point that GM doesn't want to deal with it, but Delco's made that part for some other application. So if you've got a supersession book, which I do have, when you can find what it's superseded to, what the manufacturer, dealer to vendor books, what are they superseded to? You could maybe have that part go on a little while. Now, as a good application of that, our upper steering shaft CVs. Spicer Conville made them for our application. Then I know that they sold it to Volvo, And some of the Volvo trucks for several years, they were using the same CV. Okay. Well, they stopped doing that. So now we're on that CV, we're at inventories of the new old stock, which is really dwindling too. Now, when that happens, when the new old stock is gone, aftermarket folks kick in. They either try to cross-reference to another part, they'll go to a superseded part, or they'll come up with a replacement part, or they'll make that part. Okay? Now, the aftermarket manufacturer needs a distribution. GM had a distribution. The aftermarket folks need a distribution. So they sell to wholesalers. Wholesalers break out the case lots in distributors, and then the lowly retail sells them one at a time and has to put up with you and me. Okay. Now the internet is blurring the lines in here. Okay. Sometimes you can buy it directly from the distributor. That's one of the things the internet gives us availability. You can buy from some obscure place, not have to go down to Walmart or something like that and buy it. So the lines here are kind of gray, okay, and that's fine. The accepted line of distribution has morphed, has changed into how cheap can you get the part, who's the source manufacturer of it, and what is it used for other applications, and can we get one? Can we get more? That's how we keep our availability of parts up. Good view of that is this is a 20687 upper radiator hose, which you cut off one piece of it and it'll work for us. So we have upper radiator hoses. This felt now, this is made by Gates, which is a aftermarket manufacturer, and they are also an OEM manufacturer too. Now this is window felt. Okay, this flocked is called flocked window felt. Okay, it's used for a lot of different applications. A lot of glazing glass companies use it for sliders and things. So this is a good example that a manufacturer had an aftermarket or another manufacturer make it for them, and then it was released to the general public. So now Stanpro and Sierra Lawrence and many other manufacturers are making this rubber. This part is a good example. This is a systems monitor. Now, the original system monitor in our coaches on GM floor plan coaches used floats. Now, just close your eyes and think, how long is a float going to work in a poop tank? You know, I got to say, the float still works in my freshwater tank, which is amazing to me. But there are new ideas, okay? And if you go into a new RV, it doesn't use float systems. This company, JRV, has come up with a system monitor. Actually, this one will read 2 holding tanks, a freshwater tank, and a battery. Okay, this system is inexpensive, about half the price. And if you wanted a system monitor in your coach, well, you would modify your coach to this. Okay, so this is a new product that fills the hole. Okay, so what I'm doing, I'm explaining to you where these parts come from. In a minute, I'm going to explain to you the best way to buy them. This is an ATP filter. This is the filter that we used to replace the screen filter in the wiper system. So this is a good example of a replacement part. Found a part that will do the same thing, and we integrated it into the system. Okay. Now, parts like this. This is a relay lever. All right. Now, GM has not made these parts for many, many, many years, over 20. An aftermarket manufacturer found that they could repack this side, they could bush this side, and if you supply them with cores, they can remanufacture this part. So that's how we have relay levers, and it's been this way for a very, very long time. One of the dealers tried one time to make a new one, but they had the angle wrong. The angle of the dangle here is really, really important. Okay. Other parts like that just happened recently. The steering shaft. We had a video recently about this, and this is the original Spicer steering shaft, which they don't produce anymore, which is in every one of our GMCs. So when our ending inventory of pieces and parts and things runs out, then we start going to old motorhomes and pulling parts that are usable and all this. Finally dwindles down to the point that the aftermarket industry comes up with a replacement part, a new part, a part that will replace this. And that's the idea of Borgeson with their steering shaft. They have a new part, okay? All this kind of stuff's important because the vehicle is getting older, okay? This is a cruise control diaphragm, pull diaphragm, okay? This is the main ingredient in our original cruise control, that if this doesn't work, baby, you're done. Can't replace this part, all right? What do? They have new electric servo controlled systems that don't use this part. This is not needed. So in this situation, this part has become outdated and antiquated. And if you want a reliable cruise control and yours is gone, you do not use this part anymore. So all of this availability of parts. Now, how do we find parts? You go to Rock Auto or someplace online, because everything is online, okay? And you look for a part. Now, Rock Auto and CarQuest and all these guys are carrying things that are top 20, things that have volume that sell. And they know sale rate of parts because since the manufacturer made the part OEM, they have sale rates, okay? So they know which parts are going to be the most sellers, and those are the parts that they carry, the top. I call it the top 20, all right? Other dealers like Napa, all right, their mission is to cover as much of the entire parts market as they can, okay? They're not looking for the quick dollar of the top 20, right? And there are other dealers. There are some distributors that way. Distributor that Co-op Motorworks used for 25 years was a old-time small distributor in the accepted line of distribution that stayed there, and we were able to access things because they had all the books, all the access to the database and all that, and they would inventory parts for me. So you say, well, they don't have it. Why not? Because they don't sell enough. Well, my distributor knew that I could sell enough of these. Axel Advanced Vacuum Distributor, the Vacuum Advanced that has an adjustment in it. So they would inventory these for me. Why? Because I could sell it. My sale rate was good enough that they could recognize to keep the part. Now this part, we've had this in videos before. This is a governor out of one of our transmissions. This is an example of a part that is truly not available anymore. We are living on the ending inventory, if there are any. Those are probably gone. We're now living on parts from old vehicles. Now, every Tornado, Eldorado, and GMC use this governor, but only every Eldorado, Tornado, and GMC use this. It's the only application. So this could be a part that may run into problems. Okay. Now, how do you get parts? All right. First, we know we can go on the internet and we can find most everything. And if there's a part we can't find, then you have platforms like this that you reach out to us and we find out, well, I can't find a brake drum. It's not in OEM. It's not in any of the Bender books, or you can't find it anywhere. There are a selection of parts that the retailer, the end GMC specialty retailer, is your source for that part. Brake drums, rotors, the relay levers and idler arms. You will not find all those things through Rock Auto or any of that. You'll find a blower relay, and you'll find alternator rebuild and things like that. But you won't find the selection of parts that the GMC specialty places have specialized in to keep you guys going, right? And you say, well, what's the price? The price is dictated by diminish and return, by what is the sale rate, how many can you sell, how long does it take to sell it, many, many things, okay? It's not just, oh, that guy's making too much money. No, the inventory that you're buying could have been held for 5 years. And it costs money to do that, okay? When you're working with ending inventories or new old stock or replacement parts, the replacement parts depending on what the other application is, okay? But new old stock and ending inventories, you're going to have to go to specialty dealers for those. And prices, they're not going to be wild, okay? It's not the days of, well, this guy wants $1, this guy wants $50. It's not that kind of thing anymore. And if you go to a reputable dealer, okay, not online or offer up, or but you go to a reputable GMC specialty dealer, you go to an aftermarket manufacturer, if you know cross-reference numbers and superseded numbers and things like that. And of course, you can go to a manufacturer, the part's still OEM. And you go to the retailers in each one of these categories that you have availability of. All right. Now, parts that are have to be rebuilt, not like the relay lever, but like steering boxes and alternators, air conditioner compressors, things like that. A lot of that needs to go to a specialty rebuilder that has expertise in those things. Now, alternators, we've swapped into new ones, and most any starter alternator rebuilder company will be able to build you an alternator for no problem. So one of the important things for a community like us is to have availability of parts and to know where to get the parts. That's one of the missions of Motorhome Rehab Ranch is, how do I find that part? What's going on? We try to keep our finger on the pulse of what is happening. I try to be involved in trying to keep the parts available as much as I can and try to direct ranch hands and others that ask where to find parts. I may send you to Napa. I may send you to Applied or Jeff Serum or Dave Lindsay. And there's several people that have specialized in the unique parts that we need. And thank goodness that they're here, because we need those guys. Okay. Again, the GMC was blessed because there were a lot of them and the parts were used for application. That's why we're still here. If you had a Revcon, there are parts on a Revcon that literally cannot be replaced. You would have to have the parts made. Same thing with FMC. To be honest with you, the same thing with an Airstream, because the Airstreams use a P30 Chevrolet chassis of the day. You say, well, that's good, GM parts. Well, maybe, but there's going to be a selection of parts, even that GM no longer supports, even that aftermarket people don't support anymore. Why? Because how many 1979 Chevy flatbed dually trucks are still out there? Is it in their benefit to produce parts and to inventory parts for a truck like that? The answer is no. So Airstreams are rapidly getting to the point that new old stock, ended inventories, all this stuff is running out. Now the question is, can they cross-reference, supersede, or replace parts through aftermarket people? they're far behind us because their sales numbers, their production numbers are far less than us. So there's far less interest in having parts available to maintain uh, Airstreams. It's one of the reasons that I got out of it about 7 or 8 years ago, because I couldn't get it. Some of the unique parts that I needed, somebody would come to me to have it real nice. And some of the unique parts that I needed to do that were just simply not available. And it affected the quality of the finished product and the price of the finished product. And that's why we went to GMC's exclusively. All right, well, look, I hope this is helpful to you. Understand that without the replacement parts, without a structure to have the parts available that we need, and in some cases we have to have custom parts made, but that without the ability to have that done, our motorhome is either in a museum or they're all crushed because they can't be used anymore, right? All right, well, look, thank you for the time here. I hope there was something of use here for you. If you have a problem trying to find a part, again, go on the internet. But if you do, reach out to me. Give me a call, text me, tell me I'm looking for this part, or do they have any new parts that are better than these parts or whatever. And I no longer sell fish, but I tell you how to fish and how to find the fish. So thank you for your support. Let's keep doing more of this, and we'll see you next time.